Guys, another Founder Wisdom podcast with Charles Demontigny, aka Charles Demontigny. Charles is a very nice guy. He's a partner of mine. We're building a business together. I randomly discovered Charles a couple months ago. I think Charles reached out to me because some stuff that I had in my LinkedIn, which confirms that, yeah, he's a cool guy because people don't often do that. I often reach out to people that way myself. And yeah, pretty cool guy from Montreal. We share the same name. Charles, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your business, QuebGPT Studio?
Yes, so I've been a data scientist for the past 7 years. Prior to that, I've studied economics, and when I was younger than that, my dad used to have a company, a software company. So I grew up seeing like just companies being built. My mom also had a small SMB, and my grandfather has his own grocery store. So all my life was around entrepreneurship. And yeah, funny story, the company my dad has was a bit it was hard. It was in the dot-com bubble, so I had a good idea of like what could go wrong, and it's not that bad when you live in Canada. Everything's gonna be fine. You're gonna eat, and your kid's gonna have fun at the park, so don't worry if you want to start your own business. So after my master's degree, I really wanted to start my own company. I worked for a few years at JLR. It's a real estate data company, and the company got bought by Equifax. I got an offer for a big package to stay, but I knew that if they were giving me an offer to stay, I could transform that into a contract for consulting. So I started my company with this contract, basically bluffing that I was leaving, and hoping they took me as a contractor, and they did. So for the past 5 years, I've been building machine learning, data science software for different companies. So at first I was trying to build for a smaller organization, SMBs, because I really feel like they need AI, but it was a bit harder in 2019 for those companies because they needed big data set and data warehouse and all that stuff. But today with LLMs and GPT's model, I really feel like it's their time to shine, and they can leverage those technologies really well.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we're at the dawn of something really big and could be visualized as a door that is somewhat gonna close as you and I talked with AGI. Like what happens in a post AGI world is full of mystery, but I don't want to take the bet to not have my hands on my own AGI or having a stake of that, if that's even possible. I want to start with the past, though, because we went at the same school around the same time. We might even have share some class and didn't know. I have some good memories of these days. I was starting to be an entrepreneur. I had my ventures. That was around 2015, 2016. And UQAM is kind of a crap university, but I had a good experience there. Like, tell us about your time there.
Yeah, so funny story. When I was actually prior to UQAM at CEGEP, I quit. I never graduated. It's like the college before university. I played poker professionally for 2 years. And in 2011, there was a day called Black Friday in poker, and like every website goes down, and I have like basically nothing left. So I decided to go back to university, and without like the prior diploma, the only university that could take you was UQAM. But what is funny about UQAM is, like, as you said, it's not like the most prestigious university in Montreal. It's clearly not like McGill, but the professors are could be very good because there's only 2 universities and that speak French, and I had like my master's thesis professor is actually a Princeton graduate, because either you go at University of Montreal if you want to teach in French, or you can, and sometimes when you graduate from your PhD, you don't have the choice. So it feels like you can have still good teachers, and it also feels like you need to prove yourself because you came from a lower class university. So I think this could be good for you also. So I had a great time there actually, and after that, it never like it was never a problem to go through life with this diploma. So I'm glad I went there actually.
So the poker is quite interesting. A couple of kids did that. Most of them won and lost money, and it's like very much of a rush, right? It's also a good school for entrepreneurship, mostly like VC. A lot of VCs, they do recommend that.
Yeah.
And another intellectual sport that I still play to this day is chess, which is really fun. Why did you choose poker? Why did you make money out of it? And why did you give up?
Actually, I didn't give up. So I think it's a game that gives you a lot of dopamine at first. It's just like it's random and you win, you lose. But I was quite good at like math, and it's like a mix of like probability, game theory, and like people's reading. So at first I wasn't quite good, but like in my second year, I won like 60 grand US doing that. So it was pretty good. When I was like 20, I was basically making a normal wage. After that, I kind of quit the dream of being a full-time professional, but I played for almost 10 years as like I never had a job in university. Like my student job was playing poker, and past this January I won 90K in the poker tournament. So I'm still I'm not active, but I
Well, that's
play
pretty good.
a bit here
A
and
little
there.
90K here and there.
Yeah.
So it was your strategy back in the days. I'm not sure if you read part of Dan Bilzerian's book, which was surprisingly good, apart from the dumbass bro sexual stories. But he was playing like dumb players basically, and that's how he
Yeah.
made his money. Actually, it's quite unethical to, well, in my opinion, but was that your strategies back in the days? You'd show up to parties and there would be drunk bros, and then you'd just whoop their ass at the table, or
Oh,
fully
no.
online?
I was like full-fledged online, playing with like software and like calculating stuff. I was really it was kind of my first data science kind of job, because you can have a lot of data of like you play like 1,000 N per hour, and so you have a good idea of like what is working, what is not working, and if you look into those data, you can create a lot of insights of like how people play, how the fields play in general, how you can improve yourself. So it was really more about that than like playing live poker. I played live afterward at like the Montreal Casino, but at this point you don't really choose who is showing up, but you prefer to play with lesser player just because this is where you make money.
Yeah, because I had some friends playing at casinos in Kanawaki, and
Yeah.
there's Jonathan Duhamel that lived next door when I was in Boucherville. He actually got his poker watch robbed by his girlfriend, which is quite interesting,
Yeah.
and to show how poor at social sciences these beings are. Judgment apart, but yeah, like I think it's way more scalable online. The question I have is, like, with AI nowadays, apparently there's AIs that can play poker now. Why don't you just program your own AI poker and send it on all these forums and whoop these people's ass and bring home $1 million per month?
So first of all, it's the kind of game where PokerStars also have this AI. So it's like cat and mouse. You got like cut a lot. it's like illegal in with the terms and condition of the site. So you need like 20 names to change the account every time. It's not like super easy, and a lot of people actually do this. You can also have what they call the real-time assistant, so you can have like the AI tell you what to do. And but anyway, it's been a while since like online game is easy to beat, because there's people in like third world country who can live under $50 and they can get very good. So after like 2016, 2017, I quit playing online because it was a bit less money for sure. And also I was starting to program, so you don't want to pass like to be all the time in front of a screen. So, but
Opportunity cost.
yeah, exactly.
I would start like my own poker place and charge people with AI like $30 a month, and it would be their AI against another AI. That'd be fun. And I think a bunch of people would also do it just for the competitive aspect to it, that wouldn't mind kind of losing out money. I'd also take a cut of all the money that passed through my platform. Just games, I always had I'm not claiming I'm like a saint or anything, but it's just like people get hooked to shit quite quickly, and it can be really savage when it comes to their own lives. Yeah, game a bit less, but for example, I'm a big speaker on like pornography and all these things that, and in Montreal, as you know, we have MindGeek, which is our national
Yeah.
heritage. Beautiful guys, and it's just like the dilemma when you start these gaming companies, like, will you sleep at night knowing that you're hooking people that are quite vulnerable, like people that have less education and that are more primal when it comes to their brains and how they think? Like, what's your take on that? Do you think these companies or would you run one of these companies?
I wouldn't run one of this company for the reason you mentioned. I think it's okay to have them like legal, because if it's not legal, the the gangster's gonna like run them, and it's basically that right now with the karaoke and all that stuff. But at least there's some control over it. But I have the same feeling that you have, especially for like porn. I just read like an article yesterday, I think, regarding like kids who grew up like seeing porns at like 8-year-old and like being totally crushed with the rest of their life because they cannot have like a real sexual relationship with someone. I have a question for you regarding, it's like the next porn maybe, or the next things like that. What do you think of replica or AI girlfriends?
I think it's quite dangerous. So I was one of these kids, but at 12, like me and all my friends, we started at 12 looking at porn, and it was like a competition. Um, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only kid that, because I'm a bit younger than you are, I'm pretty sure that
Yeah.
the younger generations are fucked in all sense of the word. And I think that these bots, it always depends, because I was also hooked to World of Warcraft when I was younger and spend my day playing that. So huge serotonin machine. It helped me because I learned cooperation, I learned English, I learned trades, and I knew that I was quite good at stuff because, for example, my dad, he didn't subscribe me to hockey since I was 10, or I mean, myself, I didn't have interest. So my friends, my best friends that were quite good at hockey, they were playing double letter while I was still in simple letters. So I had to be good at something. And World of Warcraft, I became the best at my server. And it still has a special place in my heart. That even now to this day, I listen to World of Warcraft playlist at night while working. This little fantasy music is really fun. But for porn, it's such a different animal. First, I gave up video games not so long ago so that I don't stimulate that part of my brain, which could lead to uh, how do you say, like a relapse in porn, let's say, because porn is
Yeah.
so accessible, it's free, and it really makes you a weak human being, especially as a man, like it takes all the testosterone, the resistance, the grit out of you. And I think this is somewhat dangerous for democracies in the Western world, which is why China tried to take advantage of that with TikTok and Shane, the company Shane. You see like the half naked women all the time on sometimes I check for clothes for my wife, and Shane pops out, and it's tits and ass all the place. Now to replica and all of this, it could be good in some situation, because coming back to the World of Warcraft thesis, well, if let's say that I was like a really angry young man and I wanted to harm the society, it's better that I stay in this world, and that I don't do harm to others, which wasn't my case, but could have been the case, since I was this little rebellious fucker, and I was like getting angry at society because I wasn't as popular in high school as I was in primary school. So that is a good part. But I mean, it's such a complex question, because we've seen in Japan that like people are getting really sexualized, and okay, people will stop reproducing. Now people will stop thinking long term, which is also essential for society to be built with something. And yeah, man, what do you think about that? My brain has somewhat problems computing that question.
I think like the one of the sides of this coin is like there's a loneliness crisis, and it's like we cannot pay like for like nurses to talk to like all those people that are lonely. So this can be good for that, but in what I think it's like it should be treated like a medicine. I mean, if you can just have morphine, like if you really are hurt and you have morphine, it's okay. But if everybody's have access to like those perfect girlfriends that never say no and like are made for you, you won't bother like have a real girlfriend and like have real like interaction with human being, and you will miss like what life's about, just because it's so easier to chat with like those replica AI, especially like in those coming years when it gets better and better. So yeah, I really feels like it should be like a tool for like psychologists and things like that, and not just like freeing the world and just fuck everyone.
Because if we think about evolution and how as human beings we grew, it's in tribes, right? It's in family. It's socializing and sharing something. Now, an interesting question that this brings up is, right now we live in a world full of adversity still, everything considered equal. This world is beautiful, right? We have never seen a more comfortable world, quote unquote. But you and I as entrepreneurs, we know how rough this terrain is. It's a jungle, and you're either eaten by an anaconda or you're fighting this jaguar the other day. People that have everything given to them and that become complacent, I think there's a real danger of being a 9-to-5er, being a zombie, being a wage slave. I don't see a good future for these folks, but why? Because I do think AGI will manage these people. AGI is coming pretty soon. We can discuss about that today. But the other side of the coin is, what if this super abundant world is coming and this AGI is giving us everything we want, whether in VR, it's kind of tube feeding us serotonin by the second. Will our brain adapt to this? Is our brain that weak? Do we not adapt as quick, or will we even merge with machine? Because if we become the serotonin slave, then I do believe that people are kind of beginning to adapt to that. Or is it like literally two species? One that is fully addicted to serotonin and that is being tube fed, and another one that values grit, entrepreneurship, and it becomes the superior species. What do you think about that Hitlerish type of talk?
Yeah, I think we already are seeing the start of this with like social media and like cell phone addiction. I think this is like
TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok is just the next crack cocaine, but it's been like Instagram and Facebook prior to that, and YouTube. So the next step will be, I think the next social media would just be AI, and there will be no like influencer, normal influencer, just gonna like create, it's like TikTok, but for you, it just creates the perfect video that you want to see, and you will be like totally addicted to it, and you could watch that for long. But our brains, if you look at all the brain work, it's not supposed to be fed nonstop, and it's not like at you know, you won't be the most happy like in this way, but you can get addicted like to crack cocaine.
Right, because it needs to scale to be scalable, because else you just crash and burn, which was my life, I think, from 15 to 19, you know, constant party and the hangovers and the panic attack induced by too much cocaine the last night, you know, and that doesn't scale. The question I have listening to you is it like, okay, if I start my own TikTok as this evil businessman, which I won't ever, is this like the world we're gonna see, like two classes of folks, one becoming hyper rich, getting the fuck out of planet Earth with a spaceship and forming their own colonies, and then the reverse to that is like, if we create this god, this AGI god, when at least on the short term, I do think it's gonna evaluate what kind of beings we are. Do we add good or not? And does it bring back some karma to us? Will the AGI restrain us from doing things from the harm that we've done? I know I'm going in weird directions, but what do you think about that future?
I think you're right, and it could be also like just the government, like in for cigarettes and like drugs, that like restrict the use, and it's
or government AGI, you know, that.
Oh yeah, it could be that too, like that understands that we cannot like be nonstop on our phone, or like in our VR headsets, and this is not working for us, and it could understand like what exactly you need to be the most happy in your life. Like you need to do 20 hours of sports every week, so your cell phone is not available because your AGI is planning everything for you to be the most happy. And in this case, you will need to not be fed nonstop. So that's possible if the AGI is good and you want our best.
You know, like something that comes to my mind is positive yes negative theories of AGIs. Positive and negative is also a human concept, kind of, and a bunch of folks nowadays, we haven't got out of the negative mindset. And even myself to this day, it's super hard to constantly be, you know, stoic and positive. Stoicness has helped me quite a lot. But do you think negativity is a human concept, hence we tend to paint a very negative well, some people tend to paint a negative picture of AGI? They're kind of projecting their own shit. And by the way, it's very hard to get out of that negative mindset. Us humans, we've grown, evolutionary speaking, to be more negative than positive so that we can survive. So this whole AI, positive or negative AGI debate, do you think it's mostly a projection of what we are? And hence, consequently, do you think if we ever have these AGIs, they're going to be a reflection of us? If you're positive, it's going to be positive. If you're negative, you're going to rot in hell. Again, a weird direction, but yeah. What do you think about that?
I think you're right about the evolutions. Like, even though the risk of like a bad agent, a bad AGI could be like only 1%, 1% is huge if it's the end of the world, and the consequences are immense.
But what if there's 99 positive AGIs fighting that one negative AGI?
Yeah, so all those theories are like based on like one AGI, like super intelligence, and most of the time we don't really like know what would go on if like OpenAI's AGI is bad, and like Google's and like Amazon and other folks are fighting this one.
I think it's an arms race for agentability.
Yeah.
I think it's an arms race to have these AGIs have acting power, right? Because if we only have chat GPTs out there that can only ideate and think and not act, and we have this big bad AGI that can have its agents, I think we need to have a counter to that. And if we think of in terms of military, right, it's just like and if we make the comparison between nuclear, the US has this shielding system, right, that if someone comes through air, then they will gun it down. So is it like, can we extrapolate that to the AI arms race?
I think the problem right now is like the AI is built like kind of open on the internet. Like I've read something about like someone who said like there's like a few things you should not do while building like AGIs, like connect to the internet through an API, it's done. Learn it how to code, and it's done. And like show it everything about like the risk of AGI. We are basically like feeding the next GPTs with like all this discussion on Reddit or whatever about what could it do. So
or just you and I asking it questions, because
yeah,
I ask it like these risky, sensitive, controversial question pretty much all the time, and they take this data theoretically.
yeah.
How much time do you have more today ahead of you?
Maybe like in 30 minutes.
Okay,
Another
yeah,
30
let's
minutes.
do that. It's I keep on coming back also to our neuronal limitation. Our brain is kind of compact between our skull. We
Yeah.
can't grow it more. So, and I think, Moore's law and singularity will really come to accelerate and come to tuition when we will use AI to develop neuroscience, understand more about the brain, and grow our own brains in the process. I have this theory. I don't think it's going to be AGI one way and brain almost flat. I think it's going to crisscross. One is going to learn from the other, because you and I, we can think things through. And obviously, arguably, it's probably one of the best method to grow neuron cells nowadays, these podcasts and these discussions. But we're still very much limited in our thinking, and that means that we cannot think of multiple scenarios. Do you think like merging man and machine is like a probability in somewhat short term? Because if we predict AGI in 5 to 10 years, and yeah, you can tell me about your prediction with that. But if that happens first, it's somewhat risky to me, because this thing will advance way quicker than us, which means that we absolutely need to have stuff like Neuralink developed so that we can merge men and machines. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think you're right, and we are definitely going this way. I mean, like we have watches, rings, cell phones, all those wearables. Like AirPods could feel like a mini Neuralink. They can feed us like with instruction or on what to do. We can ask questions. I think right now it really feel like weird and creepy to have like something in their brains, but maybe for our kids it will be like super normal. Like if somebody's told me like 20 years ago that I'm gonna pay with my phones and my face at the grocery store, it would have feel a bit weird. After that, do you really want to have like an electronic device that could be like breach into your brain? Like cybersecurity will be like needs to be really, really high, and I don't want to be the
If it
first.
doesn't have control over your vital functions, sure, you just feel like a total fucking idiot. Like it would shut it down and say, "Oh, I'm back to my
Normal.
Cro-Magnon brain."
But it's the same if you don't have like, I was in the plane the other day, like trying to just like brainstorm, and like I was able to do it, but without internet and without like all this stuff, you really feel a bit like dumber than that. But at the
Not
same time,
dumber,
it
but
feels,
like less capable, right? Like it's like
yeah.
you're missing your tools. You're missing a fucking hammer to nail down the nail.
But at the same times, at first it's a bit awkward, and after a while, when you focus on one task, sometimes your creativity like explode
Right.
because you don't have all those stimulus that you usually have.
Yeah.
Like when you do sports, it's like crazy. Or the idea that I can have like biking or running
Right.
without like
I
any
have all my
device.
ideas on runs. I had a
Yeah.
10K run last Sunday, as I usually do, and there's at least 80% of my LinkedIn posts that came from there.
It's supposed to be because like your brain gets like that much oxygen, and it's super good to have
Okay.
like good ideas. So this is why. And usually you don't like are on your phone, so there's
Or is
space
it like a
for
cache thing that it's like if your memory was RAM, if you want,
yeah.
and if you feed it with some biochemical like serotonin and all of that, plus the lack of stimuli, it's it kind of lets go of all the thoughts, kind of, and then they surface one after the other, and then it's like chain reaction, one thought feeding another, and so forth. It's
And
a
it feels
weird thing.
good. Yeah, it feels good because like you're having new ideas, and as entrepreneurs I especially like those new ideas and like try them, and like so
Yeah.
just having them while running or biking, it feels super good. But I think you're right, our working memory is like empty, so it's just there's place to think. I've heard about like writers who just go in their cottage like without internet, and they have like full space to find new ideas, but it's super boring. But boring is super important, especially those days.
Yeah.
It's
Pen and
like
paper, kind of.
yeah, meditation also, I think.
Because I did these retreats, 3 days or 10 days in silence, and I
Where
think
did you did those?
in Mexico, and I
Okay.
highly recommend. We could even do one together. It's in Mazunte. Together is a big word, right? Because it's like really individual. You can't even look one another in the eye. Um, Vegan
My
food and so forth.
Is it Vipassana?
Yeah, it's Vipassana. The 10 day, and then I did an intro not so long ago with my wife. It's more yoga than meditation. That one is way better because it's like 2 or 3 yoga sessions per day and a bit less heavy on the meditations. Because if you start straight up, even the 3 days is quite heavy. It's literally like 8 hours of meditation per day.
Yeah.
Um, and now imagine that for 10 days. And I have some mixed feelings about these retreats, like some of them I did cheated, quote unquote, and used my computer to take notes, mostly to transcribe my notes, because I would, yes, like you said, my brain would like unload, and I would take 75 notes per day. Imagine 75 per day for 10 days. That's 750 notes to classify
Yeah.
about life, about anything. And well, it's I was somewhat bored, and I felt I could have been more productive. Although these sessions are not really to feel productive or to get ideas and to advance your business. It's somewhat personal advancement and so forth. But I'm not sure if I would recommend those. I think like the one note that I came out of these retreats was mostly like you can do your own retreat anywhere you are in the world. So you just book an Airbnb, like you said, for example, 2 days, and bring a computer at least, and yeah, maybe try a hybrid without internet connections. But yeah, and plan your little day. Have some sports in there, healthy eating, cold exposure, sun exposure, and so forth. And my objective was to do these like once every month. I don't think I've succeeded that, especially nowadays. I'm busy with other stuff, but anyone can do these, and I would highly recommend them for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, funny story. My dad is a Vipassana teacher in Quebec. He's been doing like he's doing 45 days
Holy
straight
shit!
per year, once every 2 year, I think. And his mouth came back like the muscle are weak because he doesn't talk for 45 days. So I might try one of this one.
Wow.
Regarding I'm trying to do 1 day per month. I call this digital, no, nothing digital. And I was usually like,
Detox.
yeah, detox. And I was usually fasting too for 24 hours. So like really like no sports, no dopamine, like for like 24 hours. And it really feels really good at the end, actually, like just to do this like in a crazy world with like nonstop phone and computer, just to be like free of those things for 24 hours feel really
Man,
good.
45 days is bonkers. Or yeah, it's funny because typically folks doing that is, yeah, like a lot of French people, right? And Quebecers, I think we have that in our veins, these wild adventures. 45 days, man. So I think you kind of need to be retired to do that, because
Yeah,
especially when you run multiple businesses, like
yeah,
for
yeah,
even 10 days for me was quite the sacrifice.
yeah.
Have you taken some time off since you started being an entrepreneur?
Yes, not. I was supposed to do a 10 days in January, and it was like kind of a mess with one of my big clients, so I choked it. But it's
Because you
really
don't have
hard.
employees, right?
No, I have like 2 subcontractors right now.
Okay. And it's so hard to outsource to them and trust them,
Yeah,
depending what role.
they are good. It's a lot of like jobs just to like delegate, like give them the right instructions to what to do and feedback and like watch what they do. So I used to have more employees actually, but during COVID, I went back to one, me. And but I played a long game, so I might start to grow it back with like building with a service company around like LLMs. And I really feel like it's such a good technology that you could, with a small team, like do really crazy work. So let's
Yeah,
see.
let's talk about that. To me, it's like dollar signs when I think of AI and LLM and having your own little studio. A little studio can make 500K, a million a year easily.
Yeah.
What are your goals this year? Like, what do you want to build? What kind of clients? And then, yeah, I think it's just a bit more than the revenue. I think it's also having team members, or even better, automate this whole thing so that you get out of the trap, like because generally agencies, they don't really scale or build your
Yeah.
own SaaS. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do together. So what's your plan this year?
Yeah, so I have this idea about like create. I really feels like there's a lot of value like around like not fine tuning, but modifying like on the spot prompts and creating product around that. So there's a chat GPT, the normal like chat GPT, where you can like write your own. But if you embed that into like a small applications, like the one we are creating, it's not like rocket science, but just with that and like a proper application infrastructure, it could be very good. So I'm trying to automate that part so I can like build those kind of technologies for a lot of clients, but custom. It's like half and half custom, half
No
pre-built.
code
Yeah, it's not it's code, but with
libraries.
templates. Yeah, with a lot of templates, then a lot of automation, and build and use AI to automate the way I build AI platforms. So I think you can have a lot of leverage nowadays if you really understands like how to build AI tools for your clients. And at the end of the day, which like with small teams, you create so much value because let's say you automate like a job for one person in Canada, it can be worth 550Ks a year. So it's
Oh
quite
yeah.
huge. You can sell that easily for 10-20K the build of the application, and after that a few recurring revenue for like maintenance and hosting. So My goal is to try to push this with the podcast and also with an application called mygptapp.ai for like folks to be able to just put a prompt and create a small application like in 5 minutes. And after this, if you want to do custom things, I'll be there for you to help you create a real application with
Right.
my agency.
I think no code is quite interesting as well to spend less time. Obviously, you give your power to a platform, but no code is really inexpensive as well. It might be slower too, but you and I haven't looked like the bubble.io or Webflow and ChatGPT integration. I think that's somewhat low hanging fruit. I think, me on my side, I have so many things that I sometimes forget about these low hanging fruits. Another thing we haven't talked about, you and I, is like me getting contracts for you. Because I wanted to start my own AI agency. One that I will be starting somewhat soonish is this automation agency. Doesn't have much to do with AI, but that'd be a step forward. And then the AI agency, so I could book contracts for you, I could sell them for you, and you could do them, and we could partner up on that one. That might also be quite fun. And yes, the dream, if you've checked on my LinkedIn, there's this business. So the automation one will somewhat merge with the AI one. I call it agentropy.com. And the other one, that the dream is like coding your own agents, right? No more employees. I mean, you had two of them. I had hundreds and hundreds of employees over the years. So I felt the pain like straight up to my heart. Quite surprised I'm still alive after all the bullshit I went through with employees. But the point is that, like me, I'm really fucking motivated. Maybe not for the good reasons, which is like prove someone wrong or something, or some concept wrong. I'm really motivated to replace employees, actually, and or motivated to push people to be their own entrepreneurs. And one of my moonshots is to start this agent building company, AI company, obviously, and I call that one NyanderAI.com. Do you know who Nyander is?
No, I don't.
Nyander Wallace in Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, but
You absolutely need to see it.
okay.
You're doing a shame to your own patrie. It's Jean-Marc Vallée.
Oh, for real?
Yes, the genius, the same genius that created Dune. He
okay.
is the human I have the most respect for
I've
in
seen
Montreal. Yeah. And yeah, by the way, you're getting higher and higher on that list. I have lots of respect for you and your background. You have an interesting background, the poker thing and stuff. I didn't know about, but yeah, Nyander is like this. I won't sell the whole punch, the whole fruit punch, but it's like this genius AI magnet. He's the villain also. Not that I love playing the villain, but he controls the drone with his hands, and he has these chips in his brain, and he creates the replicas. And this movie is genius, Charles. You absolutely need to watch it. I have watched it 15 times, and it's my favorite movie, like top, but I'm still seeing details in it afterwards, so it's a pure masterpiece. Anyway, and that moonshot, like I'm quite very much motivated to get working on it because of the AGI door that might close down. What's your prediction on the AGI stuff? And do you feel it's like a one-way door that like people that don't get a stake of the pie might lose out forever?
So just to do a little background, I have like a master's degree in economics, and in economics right now we say that when like value is created, it's created through like capital and like labor.
Yeah.
And right now, like the mix is like the revenue to labor is like 2/3, and there's 1/3 to the capital side.
Okay.
With AI, AGI, and like super intelligence, we are going more and more to like giving like big part of the revenue pie to like capital, because there's no more need, or is it like, are we gonna find something else? But if there's no need, at some point, people with like a lot of capital will have like basically all the powers, because they can use AI with can cost money anyway, because you can like, you need like maybe power or whatever you need to run it, and you need like resources. And at this point,
Chips,
this
GPUs,
yeah,
short
exactly.
term, right? Short term.
And this can lead to like master inequality.
Mm.
On the other side, maybe there will be like needs for humans to do something that we still doesn't know why, like emotional things. I have like no idea at the
EQ.
moment, but
Yeah.
if there's a need for that,
I think it's a
maybe
want more than a need.
yeah, exactly. So there could be like still a revenue for or like maybe like communism, or still things like that, or a UBI, or things like that. But what was the question actually? I went like
Yeah,
full.
I just want to give a parenthesis before I resend you the
Yeah,
question. I had the image while you were speaking of a very rich AGI magnet hiring humans because they're humans, and like food du roi type of,
yeah.
hey, I have my humans,
Like we
anyway.
have dogs
Yeah, kind
and
of.
cats.
And another parenthesis before I re-ask the question is, I actually somewhat lost that one too. So you're kind of spreading the lack of idea. Anyway, the question was like AGI, the 5 to 10 year prediction,
Oh yeah.
and the one way door.
So 5 to 10 years. I think the definition of AGI is quite large, and it's really hard to like. At some point, like people said that GPT-4 is like a baby AGI, or a sparkles of AGI.
Because a real AGI would be like another Charles, like
Yeah,
someone
exactly.
that can think and create. And by the way, the parenthesis that I forgot about was that yes, humans are gonna be jobless if the serotonin trend continues, because they're gonna be
Yeah,
addicted to that shit, and that is when people will start to stop to work, and also UBI would be somewhat needed. Yes.
yeah, that's true. And maybe like as you said prior in this conversation, maybe like there's a split, and there's two types of humans. But quite frankly, I listened to Zuckerberg this weekend on the Lex podcast, Friedman, Les Friedman podcast. It
Yeah.
was kind of interesting, because
Yeah.
he said
Loves
that usually like when there's a big breakthrough, it feels like there's going to be another big breakthrough very soon. And actually, it's quite the opposite. Like the odds of having two big breakthroughs back to back are quite low. And we are still like 5 or 6 or 7 big breakthroughs from AGI. So if we do like to think that it might be closer, but it might still be like 20 years 20 years from now. And I'm more of this side. Yeah.
ChatGPT would qualify as a breakthrough, right?
Maybe not like the UI of ChatGPT, but like the
LLMs.
GPT-4 LLMs. This is like the breakthrough he was talking about, regarding like the capabilities that we didn't have like 1 year ago.
Right. And then another breakthrough would be quantum computing. Another one would be Neuralink. That somewhat makes sense. Why also? Go ahead.
But there's like probably like also like a maximum of things that we can do with like LLMs in like the way they are constructed right now. So it's not just like scaling like more data and more parameters that as we did to get there. If we scale that another like tenfolds, it probably won't work. There's like a way in
the speed limit, kind of the laws
the
of
transformer
physics.
Yeah, exactly. The transformer, as they work, they're just like predicting next words from a big data set. So there's no like magic in there. They're just good at fooling us humans. So we won't be able to scale that to AGI.
What? So we need to define creativity, because I think what LLMs are doing, they're kind of filling gaps of existing knowledge. So if like we have two walls and we have lines crisscrossing in between, and it would be the gaps in between that LLMs are kind of filling. How to increase the width and the height of this wall would be my question, and possibly the depth. How can we make it 3D? That
And
would be
this is the
creativity,
big
in my
question.
opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like the big questions. And I've seen another podcast about this, like, oh, like the way neural networks are created, they cannot like innovate in like big chaos environments as we can do because of evolution. So they are very good at like performing in like what they've seen, and this is why like they're really good at coding, because there's so much code on the internet that they can reproduce new code, but they won't be as good at creating a new coding language because it's just new things. So it might not be possible in the technology that we are using right now to scale that, to increase real creativity outside of what they've seen. And like they are really good at like mixing two patterns also, like use the Eminem lyrics with like to do a Christmas song, and they really know Christmas songs and Eminem, so they can do it, but they won't create the next Eminem.
Right. So let me ask you this. Computer science is a reflection of physics. I don't believe it's a science in itself, in terms of innovation. You might disprove me on that, but if that is the case, is creativity is what we're lacking here, is tools to detect that data, that feed that new data to this AI, until this AI can create its own data detecting tool to be more creative and to advance the frontier of science?
I'm not quite sure on this. I'm not sure that the paradigms of like, in this case, just new data can work. Maybe you're right with like creating new data, just like the chess the Alpha Zero did, like while playing against each other, they create
That's
like in
not
this
new
new.
data, it's like it's proven moves. It's different variations. So
No, but the second one they did, they just like put two AI playing together, and they just started from zero, not seeing other games.
Okay, interesting.
So with this one, they just like learn how to play against each other from zero, and this is why it's called Alpha Zero, compared to Alpha Deep, whatever. So it started from zero, and it was able to get very, very good with like fancy plays and stuff like that. So it was a bit creative, but we need to be able to simulate the full environment to do that, because in chess it's easy to like play a billion games, but in like, let's say, entrepreneurial, you cannot like create a 1,000 fake businesses just to have ideas and like fake creativity.
Yet with agents it will be as a dream.
Yeah, maybe, but even though with agent we need like money, and like at some point it needs
they'll have
resources
access
just
to the bank account, they'll ask banks if they want to loan out and so forth. But
yeah, but if you create like infinite number of businesses, and they all fails, you will be like super broke, even though like one is really, really good. So
yeah, well, it will kind of mimic your style, and it will feed with all your data, all your bank account data, your Stripe data, all the copy you've ever written, your Zoom data, all the data. Because the way I'm picturing it is kind of it's all black, right? Computer science to me is all black, and it's a world in itself. It's a simulation of a world. Right now, GPT, it has the Wikipedia data and these other sources and toxic sources like Reddit. And it's trying to figure out, like just like you and I, we walk outside, and I mean, we're not that better than GPT when you think about it, but it doesn't have access to this real world data, physics and atoms. So it's kind of, we need to feed it this data in this in silico world so that it can try to make new conclusions, just that we need to feed it the data in the first place until AGI can crack the barriers between computational science and the real world, which I think it will. But I think that would be the real advancement, which I think was still humans and AGIs are going to go like this. AGI, I don't think is going to go in one direction, in my humble brain's opinion. So you think it's more like a 20 years rather than a 5 to 10 years, which is my prediction.
I feel it feels like 20 years, but sometimes it can go really quick. But I don't think we can scale this technology to AGI. We'll need like another breakthrough like Transformerware 5 years ago. Maybe it's already there and we won't see
a
it.
Human generated breakthrough.
Yeah, probably. And GPT-5 would be supposedly on video. So maybe this is another breakthrough compared to like text. So
I'd agree with that. Yeah, let's see. There's so many folks working in AI, so many bright minds, and I think that I'm having another guest on my podcast soon, and something we don't talk about as well nowadays is human super intelligence. We talk about this AGI, but I think humans still have this quantic, this je ne sais quoi that makes us quite interesting and valuable as well. It's been a nice convo. You probably need to go eat some food. So do I. Where can people find out more about you, Charles?
The best place is probably on LinkedIn. I'm quite active there. So just find me on LinkedIn, Charles Demontigny, and I'll be happy to chat with you guys.